Graham Saints reunion. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you till the end of the show. Total tease. It's the biggest news maybe in Dunc and Holder history that we've got going to unearth later on in the show. It's that big. I would not miss it for the world. Clyde doesn't even know what the news is yet.
That's because no one tells me anything around this place. They just kind of show up and then it's like, hey, we got some news.
That's borderline false, at least in this room. So we'll go forward with that. Jeff Duncan stayed up late, watched the Pelicans.
Hey, he's not the only one.
Well,
because I know you didn't.
That's actually not true.
Oh.
Just because I didn't tweet about it doesn't mean I didn't stay up and watch. Like that's actually because my tennis match ran long, and so when I got home, the game was on, and so there you go. I got to see them falter down the stretch and climb their way back, and they beat the Los Angeles Clippers. And Jeff, you're impressed. I know you are.
Yeah, I actually got up very early to write a column to try to put into context what we're seeing here. And I don't think it's out of the question to say this is the most surprising turn of events that we've seen in New Orleans sports, maybe since the 2006 Saints season, when Sean Payton and Drew Brees came in and no one expected them to do what they did. But I think it's fair to say it's in that realm. Now, obviously, the Saints went to the NFC Championship game that year. But the fact that nobody saw this coming, including myself, I mean, the team was 1-5 in the initial 6 games after DeMarcus Cousins went down. And I think we have to give credit to Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry. As much as we pile on them when things aren't going well, both of these men have done their best work in a time of crisis. Basically, Dell Demps has remade the bench and this lineup in a 1-week span midseason in the wake of that injury, and the team has responded, and they all seem like they all are very comfortable in their roles. Don't you all agree? I mean, when you watch them play, everybody knows their role. I mean, Anthony Davis is clearly the alpha dog. Everybody knows it. Drew Holiday's the Batman, and they're both
Robin.
Yeah, the Robin. I'm sorry. They're both getting their points, and everybody else just is falling in line, and they're getting contributions from everybody right now. It's remarkable. I don't know what else to say other than it's the biggest story in the NBA, even though the Rockets continue to win. The best story in the NBA is the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're the biggest story, but they're certainly one of, if not the best. They're in 4th place in the Western Conference, a game behind Portland, who is just as hot as the Pelicans. They've won 8 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10 games. Pelicans have won 9 in a row. Golden State has won 6 in a row. The Rockets, they've won 16 in a row. So the top 4 teams in the West are super hot. They are on fire. And because you look at from 5 to 9, San Antonio's won 1 in a row, but the T-Wolves have lost 2 in a row. Thunder have lost 2 in a row. The Nuggets and, of course, the Clippers, they lost last night. They've each lost their last game. And so they keep climbing, and they're winning games they're supposed to win, even though it wasn't we're going to stomp on a team that's – well, you weren't going to stomp on the Clippers anyway, but it reverted back to one of those nail-biter, you're going to have cardiac arrest type of games when they let the Clippers back into it. But they elevated their play when they had to. And, Clyde, I thought of you immediately when Drew Holiday made that steal within the final minute. They played defense when they had to play defense, and that was the key to getting a key stop in a key situation.
That's all that matters, especially in a game like that where you had the Clippers who are – and that's the thing about the Clippers, man. The Clippers are known to be able to have a really, really torrid hot streak offensively, and you saw that in the 4th quarter last night where they scored over 30 points. And, I mean, obviously you'd rather have them do that in the 3rd maybe instead of the 4th, but that's, again, what made the game so close. But the Pelicans were able to pull it out, and another really solid defensive game, which it's still that bobblehead. I don't know. Since we brought it on board, man, Emeka Okafor is playing like he hasn't lost a step, like he hadn't been out of the league for 4 years. But, I mean, he had some incredible blocks last night and played incredible defense on DeAndre Jordan, had to switch up between him and a lot of other guys. So he did some great work last night.
Yeah, and as far as Emeka Okafor, plus 22 in the old plus-minus category. You down on that?
You love
plus
that
minus?
number.
Of course I do.
Plus minus McGee.
Just like the RPI.
Should I mention that the Pelicans were minus 19 with Ian Clark? I guess I'll mention
Hey,
that
man,
one too.
Ian Clark. I mean, but that's unfair because Ian Clark, as they talked about last night, he's the guy that's usually picking up the load in the last like 6-7 minutes of the game instead of Rajon Rondo. So, and he did make two.
He hit those free throws.
Clutch
at the
free
end.
throws.
Yes,
but and I think Clyde makes a great point about Emeka Okafor. He has been a revelation. Look, he's not scoring a bunch of points. That's not what he's out there to do. He's out there to do the dirty work that DeMarcus Cousins was doing, allowing Anthony Davis to be free and to be the power forward. Okafor is getting the hitting the boards. He's protecting the rim. He's basically filled that role. That's exactly what they needed. They didn't need any more points. Holiday, Ian Clark, Darius Miller, even Rondo, everybody's pitching in. Mirotic is starting to come on, and Davis obviously is taking it to another level. They needed somebody to get in there in the paint and mix it up with a guy like DeAndre Jordan and take that pressure off of Davis, and that's exactly what Okafor's done. It's been critical, I think, in this run.
And, of course, Anthony Davis, ho-hum, 41, no big deal. He's becoming Drew Brees, 41, you expect it. If he scores 20, you're wondering, is Anthony Davis's right arm strength going down the tubes just like Drew Brees? You're expecting 17 of 31 from the field and 41 points. It's ho-hum at this point. But I think you're completely right, Jeff, in that Anthony Davis knows this is his team, and he's playing like it's his team. And also, Drew Holiday knows he's got to be a big part of it. Just look at the shot distribution. They combined for 53 shots. So they combined for 53 of the 103 shots taken by the Pelicans last night. And the only other person, two people with double-digit shots taken, Rondo went 5 of 10 and Mirotic went 4 of 12, 3 of 9 from 3. You'd like for him to be able to find that three-point stroke, because if he's 4 of 10, you're 40%, you're liking that. But it seems like he's really either, I mean, obviously hit or miss, but you know what I'm saying. He could really be either really hot or really cold.
I think it's fair to say that Anthony Davis is playing better and more dominant without Cousins. And that's not a knock on Cousins. It's just out of necessity. He's realized, I've got to be the man. I can't. And that's not AD's nature. AD is a enabler to some degree. He wants everybody to be involved. And that's not what this team really needs. And I think that's what DeMarcus Cousins told him. But there's no question that he is not deferring. He is dominating. And that's what they needed. They needed him to just say, screw it, I'm going for 40 a night. That's the best thing for this team. And everybody else is just sucked into his tailwind and is following the lead. And I don't know if that goes back to that way. When Cousins is on the court with Davis, he defers a little bit. He does. I mean, you got another alpha male out there with you. It's your friend. It's somebody you lobbied to come here. You got to let him get his. And I'm not saying that this is a total knock on Cousins. Maybe it is. But the team's roles are more defined without Cousins. They just are. Everybody knows what role they're in, and the team is playing seamlessly right now.
And, look, Drew Holiday didn't have his best night shooting, 7 of 22. But when that wasn't rolling, he distributed 17 assists last night. To add to Rondo's 9 assists, I mean, they were moving about 39 assists on 46 made shots. That's getting it done.
Yeah, at one point last night they showed a graphic on the game that I think this was either midway to the end of the third or in the fourth, but Pelicans guards accounted for 20 assists and 0 turnovers at one point. 20 assists and no turnovers.
Total,
That's
they only
amazing.
had 8 turnovers total.
Well, this is my point, and we can go into this later when we get into this discussion. Are they better without Cousins or not? Because I think it's a question that's coming up more and more among fans
every day.
And I think it's a fair question.
It is fair.
It is fair because of the way they're playing. I mean, they are one win away. They beat Sacramento. They play Sacramento tonight, right?
Yes, Sacramento tonight. Yep.
Yes. They beat Sacramento tonight, 10 straight games. And I've done some research. I need some help here. Maybe someone can look it up along one of our listeners or Clyde. You're great at these things, but I think it'd be the longest winning streak in the franchise's history since they moved to New Orleans.
I think I saw it last night that if they get to 10, it would tie the longest winning streak in franchise history.
Well, that might be historic.
Yeah, overall.
But I don't think since they moved here, like at the Hornets, Pelicans, New Orleans, Oklahoma City tenure, I don't think they've had one that long. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd have to look it up. But the point is, what they're doing is unprecedented, and there's all kinds of metrics that I can try out here. I did a lot of research in the wee hours of this morning of how much better they're playing and at a much greater pace. They're leading the NBA in pace since they've started this winning streak. But the most remarkable thing about it, they're up. Their possessions per game are way up, but their turnovers are down, way down.
Especially with how fast they're playing too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they're playing at a faster pace, more possessions, fewer turnovers. Now that says a lot. They're more efficient, and they're getting more shots off.
And oh, by the way, 20-14 away from the Smoothie King Center. That is great. We bring it up because we keep bringing up great stats through 9-game win streaks. Of course, you're going to do that. But they've consistently won on the road, and you're going to need to make a charge. And if you want to be playoff relevant, you've got to be able to win on the road.
They're more resilient than they've ever been. They're playing with more confidence. I mean, they gave up that big lead last night, got behind on the road. In the past, they would not have won that game. They would have wilted. They just would have. But they're more mentally tough. I don't know what you want to call it, but they are more confident. They've won in a number of ways during this winning streak. They've won at home, on the road, against the Eastern Conference, against the West. They've rallied from double-digit deficits. They've squandered double-digit deficits. They've won in overtime. I mean, they're winning in every way you can win. I don't know when it's going to stop because they seem to be gaining confidence.
And they've had one runaway win, which you need to be able to do at some point to take the pressure off of you, because you're not going to win every one of these games. But who am I to say? They haven't lost any of these games yet, so what the hell? Maybe they can. Maybe that's just their nature. But you know, at some point they're going to have to lose a game. We know they're going to lose a game. How do they rebound
I'm not sure
from
about
that?
Man, after some of the scores I saw last night, specifically after what I saw the Wizards need to do to win, man, I really thought that the Wizards game here on Friday was going to be the toughest game that they were going to have, but either home or the road, and I really thought that would be the point where they drop it. But man, without John Wall, who is still out for the foreseeable future, and they're just relying on like Bradley Beal and guys like that, and Kelly Oubre, man, I don't know. I think the Pelicans might have a legitimate shot at that game too. So we might go into the weekend saying, man, when are they going to drop that game?
Yeah, we don't want to discount the Kings game, but we're going to assume that the Pelicans are going to win that. Kings are 20-44.
Oh, here comes the obligatory Clyde. Every team in the NBA is good. Every team can beat you.
Well, they could. We've seen the Pelicans. We've seen the Pelicans lose to bums before, but now they're not losing to anyone.
The Hawks and the Magic.
That was pre boogie down.
That's junk, Jeff. That's junk, Jeff. You know it. You know it's bogus.
Pre-boogie down. I feel like that's totally a dance. A pre-boogie down. Oh yeah.
This team does not lose post boogie down.
P.S.
Al Jarreau is rolling over in his grave. It's one of my favorites too.
Oh, Al Jarreau. P.S. The Wizards are 37-28. And they have a similar split from home and away, 19-14 at home, 18-14 on the road, so they can win on the road as well. So can't discount that, but we're going to keep mentioning it till they get back home. I'm curious to see how many people come out to the Smoothie King Center on Friday night. Let me lay out the rest of the show because we got so much to talk about in about 10 minutes. A Wobble Wobble Wednesday is not complete without our own Will Guillory. We'll talk Pelicans with him, of course. Then, top of the 11 o'clock hour, we will talk with our own Herbie Teope, covers the Saints for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. He was at the NFL Scouting Combine. Also has a unique perspective because he covered Kurt Coleman while he was in Kansas City, and he was a fill-in once Eric Berry went down. So he's kind of got a first-hand knowledge of some familiarity with Kurt Coleman. So we'll talk with him about that, any news and notes from the Combine. I've got my first mock draft up, and I don't know how I feel about it. Consensus of Twitterdom mostly loves it, thinks it's cool. Some people think it's terrible, but that's okay. That's part of mock draft. So we'll go through that. And another draft pundit is taking Lamar Jackson at number 27 for the Saints. We'll talk about that as well. And your phone calls. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Dave called you out for eating.
I know. I was like, I got caught. I felt like a little school kid.
You got for
school children
eating. Those mics are sensitive.
I know.
Yeah, literally. You could go eat that over the corner, we'd still hear it.
I was starving, man. I didn't eat breakfast. I was so caught up in my column.
Charles was like, did anybody else hear Dave's evil laugh? What was that?
Yeah, literally. It's like, Dave, what's that evil laugh for?
You were the one-armed bandit.
Availability in your state.
Jeff.
Up as a licensed credit services organization,
Check
not a
your
direct
shoes.
lender in Ohio and Texas.
Guess
Check the
what?
bottom.
With Boost,
Oh, did he come in? Did he bring some
I don't
stuff
know.
in?
data plan?
No.
That means everyone gets
Oh,
My son gets a lot.
God. Thought I
My dad
smelled
gets
it.
a lot.
Stepped in
God.
dog turd.
Instructor gets
Stay over there, bro.
That's horrible.
Put your shoe in the corner.
So brutal.
It's right in my face.
You can get line happy. This
Oh.
switch to Boost and make the most of your tax refund. Get 4 lines, each with
Somebody
a limited gig for
assaulted
just
like a
$25 each per
And
line.
you
dog
Plus,
stepped
up
in
to
my
4
yard.
lines for free.
I'm like, what kind
All
of
on Boost
asshole
super
leaves
reliable
this
and super fast
steep,
nationwide
stinking
network.
fowl
Visit your
in the
nearest
way?
Boost mobile store for a great tax season deal.
Oh, hey, we got West Bank Rick.
Oh, great. I know what he's about to bring up, too, so
First line is $100.
I know he's going to bring up. I'm going to let him do it.
Requires one line to port in and codes
But
unlimited.
yeah, Dave, I was literally checking my shoes during the segment. So YouTubers were seeing me checking my shoes, and I'm like, it's got to be Jeff.
It's too
What a
funny.
surprise. Come in. Oh, you guys don't have to worry about me. I'm here.
Offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
You were here because this one walks in and it's like, yep, I knew you guys were worried about me. Sorry about It's like, no, you should have worried about checking those shoes before you left
You
the
sound
house.
like a church lady just now.
Church lady.
Satan.
We need a check. We need a box check. Like Clyde's in a mood. We need to make sure every day we put a little box up there. He checks yes or no, and we know how to.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Dipped in warm nacho cheese.
All right, 1 minute.
Taco Bell near you.
So West Bank, Rick.
Amazon is wasting
Yeah.
Okay.
its new grocery chain into its ecosystem. Whole Foods is now offering free delivery to
Bro.
Amazon Prime members in San Francisco.
Bro.
Jeff's in the
Bringing
corner
total
with
number of
paper
city
towels.
grocery
How
deliveries
did
available
you're
to
lucky they had
6
paper towels in
orders
here.
Yeah.
at least $35
That was a
can be
total
No.
total luck of the draw.
You
Mike.
can't leave that in here either.
No, you should have walked
Within
out
1
into the
hour
newsroom
for an extra
barefoot with your
$7.99.
shoe and gone in the
Whole Foods
kitchen
says
and
thousands
cleaned
of
it.
items can be delivered, as well as alcohol in San Francisco. The plug-in vacuum is being put out to pasture by Dyson. Company says
That's a
demand
radio
for
first.
handheld cord-free cleaners so high they will stop
Be
making the
thankful,
full-size
YouTubers, you
version.
can't smell it.
Vacuum
We need smell-o-vision.
Smelly vision.
Yeah, smell-o-vision coming into your living room.
box. Mercedes says some of its Maybach vehicles will include 1 million
Now, one radio
megapixel
show
smart
at
headlights
690
that
I
can
had to do-
control
we got
where and how much
stormed
light
on
is
coming
going
to
in
the
front
show,
of
and
the
I had to,
car,
like,
and also
basically
capable of
derobe
projecting
into my
information onto
boxers.
the road,
I did the show
like
in
a
my boxers
snowflake.
because my clothes were totally soaked. It was,
Oh.
Oh, I got a treat for you someday. Hold on.
Oh, boy.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's go over to the West Bank. West Bank, Rick. Pelicans must be playing well if you're giving us a buzz. What's up?
Man, I got a couple of hot takes I want to sit here
It
and
better be
throw at
hot,
y'all.
hot, 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 hot.
We have not lost. You know, remember that moment where they had so many people on the floor they was wondering where the leak was coming from. We have not lost since the leak in the Smoothie King.
since the catch basin.
I want to also bring up the point of with or bruised ribs because AD went off in the third quarter. And the point I want y'all to discuss is what's up with the James Harden? Do the fans or the people do not like him because we beat them when they was on a 14-game winning streak. They just won their 16th game or 15th game. That would have been 30 games that they would have won if we wouldn't have beat them. But they gave the player of the month to AD. And Houston went undefeated in that month. But James Harden and Lillard was also putting up good numbers in the last month. but it seems like they're overlooking James Harden's work. Not that AD don't deserve the nomination for Player of the Month or Player of the Week, but for the last 2 years, he seemed like he's been getting snubbed on votes from the fans or from the association. And this year, he's up for MVP. They wasn't discussing AD from the beginning, but now they're doing a lot of talk where he's moving up a lot faster in the MVP votes than normal. So my question is, do you think that in the past with James Harden giving up on certain plays and not showing up when he need to show up, do you think that counts against him? So the reason why he didn't get the last 2 years for MVP vote, even though that had the triple-double, it's still, he had the better record. But I guess if you're in the playoff, you're winning, that still counts as an MVP. So I'll listen to y'all.
All right, West Bank. Yep, appreciate the phone call. The triple-double, I'm assuming you're talking about Russell Westbrook there. But I think this season he's getting as much respect as you can possibly get, considering he's the favorite in many people's eyes as the MVP. Now, the more the Pelicans win and the more AD scores 40 a night consistently, if the Pelicans jump to
third?
If they get to the third seed, because they're not going to get second.
He's not going to beat Harden.
He's still not going to beat Harden now.
It's not going to happen.
He's not going to beat him out.
Harden's won the MVP. It's over.
Yeah.
Just like the Pelicans season was over. I'm making that proclamation.
Uh-oh.
No, Harden deserves it. I mean, they have the best record in the NBA by far, and they are
not by far, by a half game.
But they're breaking records right now offensively. They are on pace. They and the Warriors to set all kinds of records for offensive ratings, pace, all these things. And the Pels, in their 9-game winning streak, are right there with them. So that's what's been amazing is the Pelicans are playing the way Alvin Gentry wants to play. High pace, a lot of shots, getting up and down the court, and they're taking care of the ball. And I think that's a big factor in why they're playing so much better.
When you have 8 turnovers compared to how many assists again? 39 overall assists and 39 assists on 46 makes. That's distributing the basketball and taking care of the basketball.
103 field goal attempts. That's another factor here. They're averaging 100 field goal attempts a game during their winning streak. You know what they averaged before that? 85. So they're taking 15 more shots a game during this winning streak. I mean, that's remarkable.
And it's not necessarily 15 possessions, but it's let's just for 10, 9, because sometimes you obviously get offensive rebounds.
Yeah, and obviously within the game you're going to depending on how the other type of team plays, you're the fluctuation of possessions that you're going to get offensively in a game are going to fluctuate depending on if you have a team that likes to work the shot clock. I mean, still you're going to get an average number of possessions every night, but like playing against a Clipper team last night that also likes to play a little high tempo, because Doc Rivers likes that style of tempo too. It's going to look a lot more fluid at points in time last night. And to also West Banks and what we've talked about, the reason that James Harden is also going to win the MVP this year is not only for the fact that the Rockets are number 1, and even if they finish number 2, he's still going to win it. It's the fact that, like you said, the last 2 years he has probably been snubbed from winning it from both Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, and the fact of the matter is now
LeBron.
I
don't think he's snubbed.
LeBron. Oh yeah, well I mean there are a lot of people last year who thought he deserved it over.
I know, but I mean the people that won it were deserving.
Right, but
snubbed indicates you.
But at the same time though, I think. Well, I mean, it'll be the same thing. Like people will feel like Anthony Davis was snubbed because, again, we'll always go back to the forever argument: is it the best player on the best team in the league, or is it for the most valuable player to his team that makes such a difference that the team would not be where it is without his help? And I mean, that's what it's always going to be, because at the end of the day, Anthony Davis and his value to the Pelicans, you could say in some ways is more valuable than James Harden, because the Rockets as a whole, which Clint Capella doesn't get enough credit, Eric Gordon's not getting enough credit, Trevor Ariza, guys like that, they're not getting nearly enough credit for being able to put just a quality team around them. Because I'll tell you what, I think Chris Paul is shooting the 3 better than I think I've ever seen him shoot a 3, even when he was with the Hornets and with the Clippers.
But the problem here is James Harden has had the spotlight on him the entire season. Anthony Davis has had to share the spotlight, and we're starting to see it now. And you got to account for the whole season if you're going to do anything.
And has had it since he's left Oklahoma City.
Right, exactly. All right, let's hit one more phone call, and we will take a break right here on the show. Let's head down to Plaquemines at Bell Chase. Let's talk with Mike. Hey, Mike, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got? Mike.
Yeah, how you doing? Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about Cousins for a minute. Stay with me here. I like Cousins. I'm not one of these Cousins haters, but I think he made a lot of improvements in the way he handled himself on the court. He wasn't so negative and whining. But I always felt like having him out there at that three-point line was taking away a lot of shots from guys like Darius Miller and Etuan Moore and even Drew Holiday. I think in some ways we're a better team without him, because I think some other guys have the chance to step up. And I like that lineup where you put Okafor in there and you got two legitimate big men playing the big men game in the paint, and let the other guys, shoot the ball from the three and all that. What do y'all think about that?
Hey, appreciate the phone call, Mike, down in Bell Chase. I always want to hesitate to say, the Pelicans are better without Boogie Cousins, because I'd like to see him with this new lineup. I'd like to see him with, you've got a guy with Mirotic. I'd like to see them now that they've kind of meshed. I don't want to just totally discount it, because Boogie is still one of the best players in the NBA when he's on the court. But I want to see how they adjust. I don't want to just totally say, yep, they're better. I want to reserve my hot take for next season when we see it.
Oh, you're assuming he's back?
I'm going to assume he's back, yes.
I think you're probably right in that assumption. I think it's hard to say. I think they're clearly different without Cousins, and I do think they take care of the ball a lot better. There's no question. Statistically, it's been proven out. But it's hard to say that this would hold up over an 82-game season. Maybe they just caught lightning in a bottle. Everybody's playing real well. I don't think this team was going to go and win the rest of their game. So maybe it's coincidence a little bit. It's a lot of things factoring into this 10-game winning or 9-game winning streak beyond just not having Cousins. But I do think the roles have been defined better. To me, that seems obvious. Just it passes the eye test when you watch them play. Everybody kind of knows what they're supposed to do, and that wasn't always the case when Cousins was out there. Like Mike said, when you had Boogie out there, I wasn't a huge fan of him out at the three-point line either, launching up these threes. It seemed like he had a lot of people standing around not knowing what he was going to do. Was he going to drive? Was he going to take the three? Now it just seems like the offense is flowing better through Rondo and Holiday.
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Talk more Pelicans with our own Will Guillory. Of course, covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Don't forget Herbie T.O.P. Top the 11 o'clock hour. We'll be talking New Orleans Saints. Come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Boomtown Casino and Hotel.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Gatz. Today, a beautiful day through the afternoon. Temperature only 59 to 62 degrees, cool, breezy, and sunny. Now tonight, it's going to be chilly. Some mid to upper 30s on the North Shore, mid to upper 40s south. Thursday, another beautiful day. Tomorrow's high of 64 with sun. Overnight lows back to the 30s north and 40s south. We do see a warm-up coming up Friday at 71 with more sunshine. Over the weekend, we do have scattered showers expected Saturday and Sunday. Rain chance 40 to 50%. Highs in the upper 70s, lows in the 50s. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Gatz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Decide your ride is back at Boomtown Casino and Hotel. Win your choice
All
of
right, we got the
2018
commissioner
Lexus
tomorrow at
IS,
10:30.
MX, or ES, or a share of thousands in bonus rewards. Visit BoomtownNewOrleans.com for info.
Sure, you can see it all at LegacyBuickGMC.com. All the inventory, all the offers,
they play
even
tonight.
every late model pre-owned. But there's nothing
5
like being live on the lot. That new car smell, test driving a powerhouse GMC truck, and seeing
Probably
firsthand
good
all the
for
latest technology
Graf's
and
blood
luxury
pressure that
appointments
he
of
didn't
Legacy's
call
high-end
the UNO.
Oh my God!
Oh God, what a
Grand
game!
slam, and then they lose on a wild
Lose on a freaking
Wild pitches back to back.
Your customer and pay less.
Yeah.
Legacy.
Who called the game in his stead?
GMC.
Probably
we are
the
professional
SID.
grade.
People who name
I
their savings
don't know if
accounts
Eric-
save more than those who
Well, he
don't.
did at
The
Ole
following
Miss.
was
I don't
inspired
know.
did
by
Eric do it
Navy
again?
Federal
Oh,
Credit
wow.
At
Union
Ole Miss he
savings
did. I
account
mean,
named
but you can.
Family
It's much
Vacation.
easier to have
Yeah,
someone.
we got Will. Go to Oxford.
Such a good call.
I don't know.
Oh, we needed this. What do you think the kids are up to?
Relaxing.
My body
Open a
hurts. I had
Save
to play
First
too
account
hard
with
to
Navy
win
Federal
last
Credit
night in
Union and
tennis.
give a name to what you're saving for. NavyFederal.org. Open to everyone in the armed forces,
7676,
the DoD, veterans,
man.
and their
Man, you
families.
had to go
Go
wire,
through
dude. Yeah, we should have to go to that.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put
Yeah.
a little extra
Well,
heart
this
into
league,
everything we do. Like
you're
actively
supposed to
looking
play a
save you
third
money.
set.
Generics,
Really?
90-day
But usually,
refills, even rewards.
it just depends
Get a
on
$5
like,
Target coupon
what's
for
going
every
on
10
with the other
prescriptions.
chords. If you already
On your next
won,
Target
then
run,
you just
stop
play
by
the
CVS
tiebreaker.
Pharmacy. We're the place with the big heart.
Yeah, they had a
On all
10-game winning
prescriptions,
streak
including those purchased
in
Arkansas,
Charlotte,
New Jersey, or New York.
but
Other
never
restrictions
longer
apply.
than 10,
CVS.com/extra
and not
care
10 in New
Target or
Orleans.
pharmacy for details.
So they would
CVS
match the
Pharmacy at
longest.
Target.
But I think the franchise now is just New Orleans. I don't think that counts.
Yeah. No, they gave a lot of that.
I mean, officially it goes. It's just New Orleans, Oklahoma City.
Choose a business phone number, make calls,
Kind of like when
and
the
send
Browns
texts, making
moved
it
to
easy for you and
Baltimore,
your customers
they
to stay connected.
Tried to-
Even get voicemails transcribed. Set up your account in minutes with no long-term contracts and 24/7 customer support. Make your small business big. Now get $20 off your plan when you visit grasshopper.com/radio. That's grasshopper.com/radio.
What's up, Will? Our All-Stars bring you the inside knowledge for your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Joining us each and every Wednesday. Will Guillory covers the Pelicans from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Will, you keep seeing this thing rise and rise and rise, and we're wondering when this thing's going to stop. And won 9 in a row. What has been the key element, I'm going to say outside of Anthony Davis? Obviously, he's a key element.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think the obvious answer is Anthony Davis and just how crazy he's been during this win streak. But I think another underestimated part of the win streak has been the play of Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday, that backcourt tandem that the Pelicans invested in early. And they this is what they really envisioned. Maybe not Drew Holiday playing this well, but they thought that bringing in Rondo would kind of unleash everything that Drew can do as a defender, as a scorer, as a guy that can handle the ball, instead of just putting himself in a box of being the point guard that feeds Anthony Davis, and they were hoping to, obviously, DeMarcus Cousins, but they wanted him to be a guy that can go get you 20 points, that can defend the other team's best player. And having Rondo playing at the level he is right now is kind of bringing out everything that they hope to see out of Drew Holiday, and that's a big part of this winning streak as well.
Yeah, Will, one of the things I got up this morning, did a lot of research on this winning streak, and we talked about it earlier. The Pelicans, during this 10-game winning streak, are averaging 100 field goal attempts a game. They were averaging 85 a game before that, or during the season. But their turnover rate is down 3 a game. Don't you think that has a lot to do with Rondo, the ball going through him? I know they do a lot of two-man game with Drew and Anthony, but also just Rondo's ball, possession and him taking care of the ball better seems like it's made them more efficient offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think overall he's just been playing better than he was earlier in this year. I think part of it was that the Pelicans had the long-term view in mind. They wanted to make sure he was healthy going into the playoffs. So that was part of the reason why you saw some of those games where he would play like 14 minutes, or he would play part of the first quarter and not play at all in the second quarter. I think part of that was he obviously wasn't playing as well, but I think they wanted to keep him healthy for the long term. And now you see him kind of ramping up everything he wants to do heading into the playoffs. And he's playing his best basketball of the season. And like I said, I think he's fitting in so well with Drew Holiday, and he's hitting Anthony on so many of these alley-oop plays. And he's fitting perfectly with this team. He's giving them everything they need, especially from a pace standpoint. And that's what makes this Pelicans team so dangerous going into the playoffs, is that they play at such a fast pace. They get Anthony Davis running up and down the court, Drew Holiday, Darius Miller, Etuan Moore, all of these shooters, and they can just create easy looks, as much as they need to, just because they don't go against set defenses as much as other teams, and they're putting up 120 on a nightly basis just because they're getting up and down. They're getting so many guys shots, and it's difficult to stop this team when Rondo is playing this well. And I think his defense has been a big part of it as well. His defense wasn't really good earlier into the season, but he's really made a big commitment on that end.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Totally off Pelicans topic, but I thought maybe the Blazers might be a team that would plummet. What are they doing? Because now we've got to keep an eye on them, because they are the Pelicans. The fact that we're talking about chasing the 3 seed, the Blazers are there. What have they been doing so well? Maybe is it Damian Lillard's been having this monster run just as Anthony Davis has been having a monster run?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, if it wasn't for Anthony Davis and the way he's been playing, I think much of the NBA world will be talking about Damian Lillard and what he's doing right now for the Blazers. I think he's just been incredible, especially the way he's played in the fourth quarter for the Blazers, kind of carrying them to a couple wins here during their own win streak. And it's just, I think they've really figured out how to make that Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum backcourt work. Obviously, both of those guys are two really potent scorers, but they have to figure out how to get those guys to score and also play defense on the other end. And I think that's really the big improvement they've made this year has been on the defensive end. They're really getting stops more often than they did last year. And Dame Lillard, I mean, he said it himself. He thinks he's having the best season of his career. He's putting up incredible scoring nights over the past few games. And just having that guy, the way it's the same thing with the Pelicans. When you have a guy playing at that high of a level, it lets everybody else on the team kind of fall into their place, and they can say, hey, this guy carry us scoring, so we could just do everything else to kind of supplement what he needs to bring the best out of him. And that's been a big part of the Pelicans' success, and it's been a big part of the Blazers' success as well.
Well, there was one point in the game last night that really piqued my interest, and I think it was maybe in the second quarter. I think it was it was the second or third quarter, and I think Drew hit like 3 shots in a row, but it was the different types of ways that I think he was able to get involved, and specifically the last way, because I think he had gotten the ball one time, drove down, got a layup, got the ball again, and then hit a mid-range jumper. And then on the third play, I think it was very interesting. So Mirotic got the rebound, took the ball, raced up the court, stopped, looked for the next guy, and it was Drew Holiday again, behind 3, step back 3, in transition, hits it, and I think the Clippers call a timeout after that. Can you talk a little bit about how you see guys like him and the rest of some of the newer pieces feeling more comfortable in how this offense is being run? Because clearly, when they're on fire and they're running all cylinders like that, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Drew's playing with an extremely high level of confidence on the offensive end, and it's crazy to kind of see where he is now compared to where he was last year around this time when Boogie initially came around. And he was really hesitant about when he could take his shots. He was turning the ball over. He was shooting it at a pretty low percentage. And now, I don't know if it's the braids or what's going on, but I mean, the guy is just feeling himself right now, and he's hitting shots all over the place. And like you pointed out, I think one of the biggest reasons behind his success is that he's able to he can score from so many different areas on the court. He's hitting his jumper. He's one of the best mid-range shooters at the guard position around the league. He can post you up. He gets to the paint. He's not getting to the free throw line as much as a lot of guys, but I think the way he can kind of attack guards in so many different ways is difficult to find a good matchup for him, because if you put a smaller guard on him, then he's going to bring him down into the paint and try to score in the post. If you put a bigger guard on him, then he'll go and pick and roll and try to drive past him to get to the rim. So it's just so difficult to kind of figure out how to stop him when you also have to put so much attention on Anthony Davis as well. At such a high level, that's a big reason why this offense has turned into, one of the best in the league.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Okay, they take on Sacramento tonight. We're to the point where they assume they win every game, but this would be a game whether they won 7 of their last 9. We would assume that they would win. And then they come back home for a 3-game home stretch starting against the Wizards. Will, is there a point? I'm trying not to be just ridiculous with this question, but when's the next game do you think you see them losing?
I think tonight, like you said, tonight will be really interesting to see how they handle it, especially considering AD had the rib injury last night, to see how he kind of bounces back from that. If they can get some more help from that bench unit. The bench unit didn't really play well last night. They're going to obviously need those guys tonight, playing on the second night of a back-to-back. But if they can get past this one, I think the Washington one will be really interesting, because obviously Washington has been playing well. They've fallen off a little bit as of late, but they're a really good team. And that Utah game on Sunday is the one I really have circled, because that'll be another one with playoff implications on the line. Utah came into New Orleans last time they played and kind of spanked the Pelicans, put up 133 points on them with Donovan Mitchell not even doing that much. So I think the Sacramento game would be really interesting, but if they can get past that one, I think the Utah game will be one where you really see this team tested. And maybe they won't be able to score 120 the way they have throughout this streak against that Utah team, and we'll see how they can react to that, and they can still find a way to win that game.
Well, the one thing that I think is interesting to me, we've all heard and maybe even harbored our own criticisms of Alvin Gentry throughout his tenure here, but in my opinion, since Cousins has gone down, I think he's done some of his best work. And to me, he seems like he is settled now on a rotation. It looks like they're 8 deep. They use Check Diallo and Walt Lemon a little bit for cameo to save some minutes for some guys. But for the most part, this has become an 8-man rotation, and it seems to be working. Everybody knows their role. They've got enough firepower off the bench. He just seems more comfortable now with his decision-making. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe the team's success is making me see that, but it just seems like now everybody knows their defined roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously they were playing at a really fast pace with DeMarcus in the lineup, but ever since he's gone down, you've seen this team play pretty much the way Gentry wanted them to play once he got this job, obviously coming from the Warriors, where they were one of the fast-paced teams in the league when he got a championship with them. And they're moving the ball up and down the court. They're getting, like you said, 100 shots a game during this streak. And they're playing at such an incredible pace that this is the style that Gentry wants. He wants those guys to get up and down. He wants to get those shots from the perimeter. He wants AD to get those easy looks in the paint. And when you're playing this style, it's difficult for a lot of teams to keep up just because they're not going to have enough scoring on a night-to-night basis. If you're putting up 118, 122 every night, there are only so many teams that can get enough scoring just to keep up with you. And if they can keep this up, it'll be difficult for a lot of teams on their schedule to keep up with them and to put enough points to just be competitive. So I think that's a big part of it. And also just getting the rotation in order is big, but also just getting the guys you can trust. I think earlier in the season, they only had like maybe 4 or 5 guys that Gentry went into the nights that he knew he can really trust on a night-to-night basis. And now you've seen Ian Clark playing some of his best basketball of the season. Mirotic has been a really huge beast for the bench. And adding Emeka Okafor to the starting lineup so you can have Mirotic play with that bench unit has been huge, obviously. Darius Miller is playing really well off the bench. So they have a second unit that they can go to with AD and Drew on the bench. They can trust to hold the fort while those guys are resting, and they're staying competitive. And like I said, putting up huge scoring nights, even if Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday aren't playing that well, just because they're getting contributions from so many other guys on the team.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Follow him on Twitter at Will Guillory, and follow all of his great coverage of the Pelicans on the website and in our print editions. Hey, Will, great stuff as always. Appreciate the time on a Wobble Wobble Wednesday, my friend.
I appreciate you guys. Let's see if we can keep this thing going. Maybe undefeated the rest of the way. Yeah, that'll work for y'all.
I mean, I'm just going to wobble all the way to the NBA Finals. Why not? Why the hell not? Let's just do it.
Let's do it.
There we go. Will, that means you'll be hella busy, so I guess you'll gear up, my friend. All right, Will.
I won't mind. If we're going to the finals, I won't mind.
There you go. All right, Will. Great stuff.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Will.
it. Yep. All right, that's Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. I can't underestimate how well the Pelicans are playing. It's unbelievable. Like
I know.
I'm floored.
That's what I said. It's the most surprising turn of events since that 2006 season the Saints had. They were 3-13 coming off the Katrina season. Nobody saw that coming. And this team was 1-5 in the wake of Cousins' injury. And they'd played a dismal game against the Sixers. They were non-competitive. I think they scored 82 points in that loss. And they just looked uninterested. And then they go to Brooklyn. And like we said, they squander a 33-point lead. They pull that game out in double overtime and have not looked back since.
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, top of the 11 o'clock hour, we'll have Herbie Tiopi talking Saints. And don't forget the biggest news possibly of your life, Clyde.
Probably not.
Probably the biggest news of your life.
Very likely not.
I'm already doing some research on this news. Huge news.
Stunner.
That we will bring to you, I'll say, the final segment of the show.
Well, let's make it clear, though, to listeners, it's not exactly going to change the fortunes of the Saints or Pelicans or somebody like that.
It might.
Oh, wow.
It might.
You're going out there.
You're going out there, and I don't believe you, so it's fine.
All right, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, Dunc and Holder. No.
I'm
looking up.
Oh, buddy.
I'm looking up all the others.
You emailed me out of nowhere.
Well, because I gotta get him on. I gotta get this.
Talking everything New
Get a
Orleans.
mention of this. He's made it.
Joining the crew.
Some others.
We'll tell it like it is each and every day.
Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2. Sports
No,
1280 New Orleans.
He went on Instagram
every day.
We've launched a brand new iHeartRadio.
And we got a Ryan in New Orleans.
Okay.
It
Instagram
features popular
story.
female
So
artists
was,
talking about the women in music who have
last
inspired
night?
their careers.
I
You'll hear
forget.
artists like
And
Beyonce,
then-
Carrie Underwood, Lady Gaga, Demi Lovato, Annie Lennox,
I love
Florence
how you're
Welch, Taylor
looking all
Swift,
this
and many
stuff up.
more.
I gotta make
From
sure,
the
like,
artists about the
what I'm
women that
saying is
inspired them,
borderline
plus
true.
hit music
Borderline
from both
true.
the artists sharing their
God
inspiration
forbid that it
and
has
artists who
to be
inspired
somewhat
their
true
careers.
and
gotta be
legal.
borderline
Inspired
true.
women.
Although I have a
On
question for you. In
iHeartRadio.
your
It
mock
was her
draft,
first concert,
Yeah.
so
in
we
the-
were nervous.
Dad was.
With Total
Let me
Wireless,
read
we
this
got her
out
the
for
phone
you,
she
'cause I
loved
wanna
on the
make sure
nation's
it's
best
I'm
4G
assuming no
LTE
one
network
edited it.
for
That's
less than
the
you'd
problem.
expect.
Jordan
Now
certainly
you can always stay
panned
connected.
out pretty well.
Great.
Maybe the Saints
Want to get
can't
more out of
strike
your
again with
wireless
Hubbard.
plan and your
Is that supposed to
refund?
say
You
can?
got this with Total
Okay, good.
Wireless.
I'm just making sure
Get the
because I'm gonna
Samsung
make you look
Galaxy
good for the
J3
graph.
I didn't
Pro
get
for
much traction on my
$49.99
chat
or the
yesterday.
J7 Sky Pro
Well,
for
dude,
$99.99.
the point of the matter is
only
for
at
that is that
TotalWireless.com.
we need to
Total
get it out
Wireless,
there first.
total confidence.
Like, we need to get
Limited time
people
offer ends 4/17.
aware.
Available while
People
supplies
aware we're gonna be
last.
doing that.
Yeah.
How come when I
20 years ago,
chimed in,
when my
it
mom
was
had
under
lung
New
cancer.
Orleans Saints?
Because there's a way on Facebook
Today,
you can
you do.
change it to make sure that you're
If you've been
commenting
diagnosed
as
with
you.
lung cancer,
But I figured that was over your head, so I didn't
cancer.org.
want to tell you.
Over my head.
Well, I mean, I didn't. Well, here's the thing. It's not like I had time to show you yesterday.
I know what I'm saying is like I want to
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
more better if I'm the one
Yes,
saying
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
Cynthia
I was
Nixon
just glad I
of
was
Sex
able
and the
to
City
tag you
fame
in the
is
post.
assembling a staff to run for
I
governor
tried to
of
go
New
in and
York. Should she enter the
fool
race,
around
she
and
would
make
be
it
poised
become
to
me,
challenge
and it just
Governor
I couldn't know how to do
Cuomo
it.
in
I can show you how to
September's
do it.
Democratic
All right.
primary.
Yeah.
Nixon played the role of
But I figured
Miranda
we
on
didn't
the
have time
long-running
yesterday, so you just
HBO
commented.
series.
But yeah, that's
She
the thing.
was
We
born
need to
in
get
New York
people.
City, later graduating
Yesterday was a good
from
start there because I
Hunter
saw
High
some
School
of it in the
Manhattan,
afternoon. I was like,
and
okay,
then
good.
Columbia
That's better than
University.
nothing.
Jennifer
Like,
Well,
that's
Garner
actually, to
actually.
be honest with you, I
embracing a
forgot about
viral
it.
meme
I
on
got home and I
herself.
was
The actress
sitting around and I
posted
looked at my
voiceovers
Facebook page and I
of the
saw
meme
these
on
like
Instagram mocking herself on
mentions
what
or
she
whatever.
Mentions, yeah.
I forgot about it. I better jump in there.
Who is it we got, Dave?
Maybe I should date a fish.
On the phone.
Mike?
Ryan, I think.
Ryan in New Orleans.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Let's go to someone in the city. Someone in the city.
That's the
What you got?
ticket.
Suddenly
That's
with
the
the
ticket.
Let's go to the guy with the phone.
Yeah.
Welcome, phone guy.
On a car phone.
childish
On a cellular device.
On a cellular device in his
year.
top-down
The singer,
Volvo.
whose real
In a-
name
in a
is
phone
Donald
booth.
Glover, announced that
In a Chrysler LeBaron.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna find the.
support of
Oh,
his
I can't talk about it.
2016 album
But what?
What I texted last
for
night,
his
the group
last
text.
tour before he retires his
Oh, yeah, I
don't wanna talk about that
Tarantino
publicly.
alter ego.
Wow, I didn't know you swung that way, having group text and all that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm telling you, man,
Yeah,
my
it
head
smells terrible
My
in here.
head exploded last
Oh,
night.
yes, yes, yes.
Exploded.
About a certain radio show.
Coming back.
This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head to the New Orleans proper area and talk with Ryan. Hey, Ryan, thanks for calling Duncan Holder. What you got?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
Good. Just real quick about the Pelicans. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but when they try and get AD and Drew some rest at the beginning of the second, the beginning of the fourth, where it looks like ideally they'd like to keep them out for about 4 minutes or so. It obviously seemed to be about a minute and a half or two, and it just kind of got me thinking with Rondo's minutes. The kid from Duke who's been hurt, the point guard,
Frank Jackson.
Yeah, I know at some point, they were saying they were expecting to get him back from injury, and they were kind of excited about seeing what he could do. And it just seems like he could, if that is the case, that they could use another playmaker in those first couple of minutes. And with them limiting Rondo's minutes, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what his status is, or if there are any plans to get him in the mix.
Thanks for the call. I know they'd like to get him in the mix, but it doesn't sound like this is happening anytime soon. I don't know. It's almost like gone and forgotten and wait till next year at this rate. I don't know.
Same with Solo Hill. I mean,
Right.
we kept hearing that Solo might be back and available at the All-Star break. And he is making great progress from his torn hamstring. But I think at this point, the team is like, well, it's working. There's no reason to rush these guys back out. But I do understand what you're saying, Ryan, because I do think there is one issue here and I hate to bring it up because you want to knock on wood with injuries, but if Rondo goes down or one of those two backcourt guys, they're in trouble, even for a short period of time because they're so depth shy at point guard.
Yeah, they played, even just the bench as a whole, they played 8 deep. And your other guard that played last night was Ian Clark. That was it.
So Ryan's got a good point of bringing this young kid along at least to spell them for a few minutes, but it sounds like they're just going to ride with what they got right now, ride or die with this lineup.
Brent on the west
see
side.
if it can hold up. Now, maybe they call on Hill or Jackson if they need to, but right now they don't need to.
And we'll talk about this later. But in the picture that the Pelicans posted yesterday from their shoot around, it looked like Solomon Hill had come from a full workout. So hopefully, maybe that's a good sign. But he looked like he had gone through his paces, and maybe he's getting closer than what we know. They're just, and I can understand why the Pelicans would probably want to be very careful with these injuries, as we've seen with the Saints and Osher and all that kind of stuff. So.
Point well taken, Clyde.
Thank you.
Clyde with the zinger.
Exactly. Boom. Ask Delvin Bro. All right, let's take one more quick phone call before we got to head to the top of the hour break. Let's head to the West Bank and let's talk with Brent. Hey, Brent, thanks for calling the show. What you got?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How's it going? Good.
Hey, this might be a little bit off the beaten path, but I needed to vent this morning. I've been a long-time Tulane fan for years, probably 40 years. And have always been able to hang our hats on, a top-flight baseball program, perennial top
2 minutes,
in the country. And the condition of this baseball program today is very sad. Rick Jones has got to be pulling his hair out of his head today to look at the program that he left and built the condition of it today. Very disappointed in the performance so far this year. Looks like we're headed to another losing record. This team was picked to finish last in the conference. That was unheard of under Rick Jones, and looks like a poor hire. We've now brought baseball down to the level of where we were at in football and basketball for the last 30 years. So very frustrating. And next time you get Travis Jewett on the phone or on the show, really
1 minute.
Feet to the fire. He brought in a bunch of players, and we're no better today than we were last year. So,
all right, Brent.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, got to let you run. Disheartening loss last night for Tulane against UNO. Grand slam, and then to lose in the last inning on a wild pitch. Multiple wild pitches, and not a good. So, all right, hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk with Herbie Teope. Covers the Saints for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. We'll talk about my mock drafts later on in the show. And the biggest news of your life is coming.
But probably not.
Highly likely that it is the biggest news of your life.
But probably not.
Maybe it's not, but I think it will be. You will be floored by it. So come on back for hour number 2. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
I got hands, but my plans is to never come from but we start the torture since we're working out this month. Love mama got it so fast.
Good chime in,
we're kind of like, especially like talking about like injuries and stuff. And the only thing I think about is like, maybe they're holding him out. Probably share reasons because
No, at the very end. Probably not. But maybe it will be. Probably not.
Probably not. See, I'm starting to get the hang of this.
We're taking on our biggest rival, cancer. It will be a tough fight, but we have the home team advantage. Let's help the American Cancer Society help those with cancer. Join us.
Just trying to get this done. I think the earlier I get it out, given what happened last night, better. I might just ship it.
You gotta have a game tonight too, so
right. I gotta get it's done, but I just want to read over it. I'm gonna ship it over to Jennifer.
No, that doesn't work. I'm busy then. Decline. Decline.
Floods don't exactly work around your schedule. Disasters don't plan ahead.
Don't
but you
forget you
can.
had a
It starts with talking to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. So don't wait. Communicate. Visit getagameplan.org. Brought to you by the Louisiana Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
Next week we got a
Fox Sports Trending
now.
As the dialogue continues throughout the NBA offices and college ranks about potentially eliminating the one-and-done rule in college hoops, Kentucky coach John Calipari talked about the pros and cons today when he joined Fox Sports Radio's Dan Patrick Show.
Kids should be able to go out of high school. But how do we do that without devaluing education? What if that's now kids all going like we're going to encourage them to go to the
kidding me?
And they
Father
don't make
Flanagan.
it. Who's going to take care of them?
Meanwhile, CBS
Who's
Sports
gonna
is reporting
take
that
care of
Memphis
them?
is considering firing head basketball coach Tubby Smith and replacing him with former Tigers and NBA star Penny Hardaway. Hardaway currently coaches a local Memphis high school team
Yeah,
as well
he's
as
really
an
taking care
AAU
of
team.
them.
The report Hardaway would target Hall of Fame coach Larry Brown as an assistant with Memphis. I'm Deb Carson.
Guess what? With Boost, adding a line with unlimited gigs to my data plan has never been easier. So, that means everyone gets a line. My son gets a line. My dad gets a line. My yoga instructor gets a line. Oh, and don't forget about Bill. All we needed was a switch.
You too can get line happy. This tax season, switch to Boost and make the most of your tax refund. Get 4 lines, each with unlimited gigs for just $25 each per line. Plus, get up to 4 phones for free. All on Boost's super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Visit your nearest Boost mobile store for a great tax season deal. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 3/8/18. First line is $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port in on plans $50 or higher while supplies last. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
By the time that we got up there, his room was filled with smoke.
The wind had blown, drifted the snow up against the side of my house, blocking the exhaust from my furnace.
I heard the smoke alarm going off in my friend's apartment.
Without the kid's smoke alarm, my son would not be here today.
Had it not been for that carbon monoxide detector, they would come to school
it's funny,
and
of
not
course,
have their
that
teacher there.
Brent guy.
I grabbed my fire extinguisher and put out the fire.
Oh, that's your guy.
That was the
That
guy.
was your guy. You
Yeah.
remembered
Get
it.
these essential products at your local retailer.
Never
today.
forgetting it now.
How much will you save at the JCPenney Mystery Sale? An extra 50, 40, or 30% off. Friday through Sunday, visit in-store to receive your mystery coupon. Then peel to reveal and save instantly on regular, sale, or clearance prices. Wow. So what are you waiting for? Hurry. In-store.
All right, just a little under 2 minutes.
Penny. Coupon valid 3/93/11. Excludes final take offers. Clearance selections vary by store while supplies last. Savings off regular and original prices. Intermediate markdowns may have been taken. Some exclusions apply. Coupon giveaway available while supplies last. Must be 18 or older. See store or jcp.com for details.
Amazon is wasting no time merging its new grocery chain into its ecosystem. Whole Foods is now offering free delivery to Amazon Prime members in San Francisco and Atlanta, bringing the total number of cities where grocery delivery is available to 6.
Wow.
Orders that total at least $35 can be delivered
They're
within
gonna do
2
away with
hours
grocery
for free
stores?
through Amazon's Prime
Disrupt
Now
grocery
service,
stores?
or within 1 hour for an extra $7.99.
No one's gonna have to go to the
Whole
grocery
Foods
anymore. It's
says
all just
thousands
gonna
of
get
items
delivered
can
to
be
your house?
delivered, as well
I
as
think it could.
alcohol in
Like
San
a
Francisco.
robot?
The plug-in vacuum is being put out to pasture
here you
by
go, Coach
Dyson.
Cal. The
Company
coach
says
cannot
demand
control
for
it.
handheld
Make it
cord-free
legal.
cleaners is so high they will stop
Good
making
boy.
the
Coach
full-size
Cal.
version. Newest vacuum is the Cyclone V10. It's a
Begging
little
for
bigger
his
than a
coaching
conventional
life right
hairdryer
now because he
and
sees
costs
it all
$500.
slipping away.
Mercedes says some of its Maybach vehicles will include 1 million megapixel smart headlights that can control where and how much light is thrown in front of the car, and also capable of projecting information onto the road, like a snowflake symbol that indicates slippery conditions are ahead. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
All right, 30 seconds.
Fun. I didn't think I liked
Oh, we have Herbie.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a
Hey,
kayak.
Dave, we got
Dad.
Herbie.
Yes, we do.
Sweet.
Kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Wednesday, March 7th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Redan here with you at our NOLA.com Tom's Picayune Studios. Dave DeCorbier back in iHeart Central. And joining us right here on the show, sorry that we got you out of the top of an hour break because we do not have any theme music for one. Hacksaw Herbie T.O.P. covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Herbie, never mind. Dave did you a solid. Even brought you some music right up your alley for a Wobble Wobble Game of Thrones Wednesday, I guess, for you.
Hey guys, what's going on, man?
We never cease to amaze you, Herbie. I know that to be true. You're fresh back, a couple days removed from getting back from the NFL Combine. Of course, that's a grind of a week for sure. I'm just going to say, what are maybe a couple of the takeaways you took from the Combine? I mean, we could probably go on and on and on, but what are maybe the couple of the primary takeaways to whether it was Saints related, prospect related, or anything else?
I think if anything, it's the due diligence that occurs for that week-long event known as the NFL Scouting Combine. And you're absolutely correct. It is a grind because it's nonstop players, nonstop coaches. You know, you're running down leads. Your colleague Josh Katz's team did a fantastic job up there, also running down some leads. But if anything, it offers a window as to what the Saints could be thinking as we head into draft season, basically. You know, this is quite frankly speculation season, as I like to call it, because you're going to be running down a lot of stuff. But the Combine gives the Saints the opportunity to accomplish two major tasks. First off, you know, you got 336 draft prospects in Indianapolis, and the Saints are going to look at a lot of them. But it also is a preview to what's going to happen next week, and that's NFL free agency. We found out at the Combine, you know, you reported that the Saints weren't interested in bringing back Kenny Vaccaro. Josh Katz's team followed up with the article saying, yes, that's absolutely the case here. They're not going to be bringing him back. We know that the Saints have mutual interest in bringing back John Kuhn. It gave them an opportunity to probably grease the skids with George Johnson, defensive end, who they just signed this morning back to a one-year deal. So this sets the table for the major event that happens next week before the draft, and this is where you want to start taking care of in-house matters. Outside of that, the biggest takeaway from the NFL Scouting Combine was every player is a good player, and this is just a piece of the pre-draft evaluation process. I think I've heard those two phrases more than I want to regurgitate for the rest of my life.
Herbie, one of the stories that leaked out, at least in the last few days, I don't know if it was during the Combine or just recently after it completed, is that the Saints could potentially have interest in bringing back Jimmy Graham for a reunion. My colleague here, of course, Larry Holder, weighed in on that. What do you think? Do you think there's merit to that? Do you think it would be a good fit? And do you think it's a smart move for the Saints to at least consider it?
Well, I think if anything, I do know this from being up there in Indianapolis. They took a hard look at some of the tight ends. Tight end, I think, is absolutely on the Saints' radar. Jimmy Graham makes perfect sense because he knows the scheme and he would be comfortable here. The players here would love to have him back just from looking at a lot of the tweets. So I think there's some legs behind that. Whether they can find the right price, that's the big question. You know, how much is it going to cost to bring Jimmy Graham back here if that's the way the Saints want to go? But I think they covered themselves. You know, if they can't bring him back here, they looked at some of the top tight ends in this year's draft: Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst. You know, I'm hearing grumblings that they were very interested in this guy. So they are looking at tight ends. You got to look at the production they received out of the tight end position last year. It's not what a lot of Saints fans were used to from the Jimmy Graham's heyday here. You know, Ben Watson that year had a pretty solid year, but the last 2 years, you've seen a very massive drop in production from the tight end position.
Herbie T.O.P., of course, covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, the Saints also came to terms with former Panthers safety Kurt Coleman. That certainly spells the end of Kenny Vaccaro. He even admitted as such even before that the Kurt Coleman signing was done, agreed to terms. You covered Kurt Coleman up in Kansas City, right, when he went down and he had to play in replacement of Eric Berry. Am I right?
That is correct. 2014. He was coming from the Minnesota Vikings. He signed an off-season contract with him. The Chiefs at that time signed him just before the start of the regular season. And you're looking at a guy who immediately brought veteran leadership, a high character into the locker room, and he was invaluable when Eric Berry, sat out that season because of Hodgkin lymphoma. He had 15. I think he appeared in 15 games, and then he started 3. But he was a large part of the rotation because the Chiefs, golly, I'm got to remember, you're bringing me back to my previous beat. The Chiefs also ran a lot of 3 safety looks. So he was heavily involved in the package with Ron Parker, Hussein Abdullah, and Coleman actually led the team in interceptions that year. So this is a guy, I think, that because of the amount of 3 safety looks the Saints enjoy employing out there, he was certainly fit in there. He's a veteran guy, a high character guy, and you look at what he's done in Carolina the last 3 seasons, he's a productive guy. So I think he's a more than capable fill if and when Vaccaro walks in free agency.
How do you think he fits in? Do you think he supplants Von Bell as, say, the starter, even because in base defense, your starter is 2 safeties? How do you think he fits in within this defense?
I think, if anything, Von Bell, in my opinion, Von Bell and Marcus Williams are your starters. But when you bring in a guy who has the veteran savvy into that meeting room, into that locker room, you got to remember, the Saints' defensive backcourt is very, very young. And what they did in the past couple of years, they've always had that veteran leadership back there, whether it was Sterling Moore or even now Kurt Coleman. So I think when you have Marcus Williams and Von Bell as your projected starters, and you have a guy like Coleman back there who understands the NFC South most definitely, he can help. He can be that comforting factor back there. That if Williams or Bell were to suffer an injury, he's a plug and play kind of guy. So he can help stabilize it. And once again, with the amount of 3 safeties that the Saints like to use, he can step right in.
Herbie, one of the things I think stands out in this upcoming draft is going to be the comings and goings, or the targeting of all these top quarterbacks. I mean, there's like 5 that are being projected in the first round. I don't think the Saints will be in that number. Maybe I'm wrong, because I didn't think they'd be in that number a year ago either. But I'm curious to get your thoughts, because you just came back from Indy where all this was taking place. What do you think is going to happen up top? I mean, do you think Cleveland's going to go quarterback with number 1? Do you think they're going to wait? Do you think they have a target right now? And how do you think the dominoes play out with these guys?
I think what's going to help settle the draft down in those early picks is you're absolutely correct. Is quarterback on John Dorsey's mind? And then, as you guys know, going back to the Chiefs theme, I actually covered John Dorsey when he was a general manager there. John Dorsey, and you look at the staff that he has right now, the guys that he purged from the Green Bay Packers personnel office, that is a regime that will be looking for a quarterback if they don't believe the quarterback they have now is their future. John Dorsey's philosophy is you always have to draft a quarterback. And are there quarterbacks in this year's draft class, especially early, that they like? Absolutely. I think they might be targeting a quarterback. And then you have the other teams that are in need of quarterbacks right now, the Jets, who are picking early. So once those first few picks get settled down, then it's going to set the market for everybody else. If the Saints want a quarterback, I don't think they can afford for a quarterback that they really, really like. Like, remember last year, there was a lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes. If they like any of these top guys, I don't think any of them are going to fall to 27, so they're going to have to make some moves.
Herbie, first last week we saw NFL Network's Peter Schrager peg Lamar Jackson to the Saints at 27. Today, Todd McShay has a mock draft out. He pegged Lamar Jackson to the Saints. What do you make of that?
It's speculation season. Here's my thought process on mock drafts, and you guys know this. I think they're highly educational because it affords readers the opportunity to learn about players that they may not have even been familiar with. I think mock drafts are fun to read, but we can't put too much stock into them because when I go back and look at a lot of the national guys, what's their accuracy rate? Nobody knows what a team personnel department, their scouting department really feels about a player. So Lamar Jackson sliding him to 27, it's fun to read about, but I can't say that's going to happen because we don't know what the Saints are really going to do at 27.
By the way, Herbie Teope is going to be having a mock draft coming out very soon, and I have one that's out today. So read them all up. Get with it, Herbie. Come on. Let's pump this thing up.
Learn about the players. I think that's the key thing with mock drafts. We get to learn about these players. Who are these guys? So just in case they are drafted by the Saints, now you don't have to go too far to read about them. I think, a lot of the people who do mock drafts like us, obviously we have an educated opinion because we know what the Saints need. We know what the team needs are. And then if a player is there, would it make sense to grab a quarterback at 27? I think you have to. I think sooner or later the Saints have to address the quarterback position. And I know Drew Brees is still playing at a high level, but he'll be 40, or excuse me, he's 39 now. He'll be 40 at the end of the year. How much longer will he go? And do you have the heir apparent in place? And as of right now, I don't think they do.
And Herbie, one thing that I think you and I agree on, we're still somewhat midstream in this personnel evaluation process. I always try and caution fans and readers, listeners, this is a moving, fluid situation. Players, and you do a mock draft, and immediately you get people saying, "There's no way that guy will be there at that spot," or he's going to go that spot. Boards are moving as we speak. The combine is one part of the process. We haven't even gotten to the pro days yet. That's going to be part of the process. So to determine where a player is right now, I think is foolhardy because things are going to change a lot in the next 2 months.
Absolutely, and don't forget, you also have your private workouts that the teams will also do, then the pre-draft visits. So I don't think most teams will set their draft boards until a week and a half, maybe even as early as 2 weeks before the actual event. You're absolutely correct, Jeff. There's a lot of moving pieces here, which is why you see with us, our core group of folks with the Picky and the NOLA.com, and we do our mock drafts, it's constantly evolving as well because this is when we're starting to hear, okay, they're worked out so-and-so, that they're bringing in another player in for a pre-draft visit. Okay, they must really like them, so let's take a look at this. One of the things, remember last year, Sean Payton personally flew out to Texas Tech to work out Patrick Mahomes, and that was an eye-opener. Sean Payton is not going to personally fly out and work out a quarterback unless he absolutely likes that guy. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens here in the next month and a half before the draft.
Herbie Teope covers the Saints, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, of course, also with Josh Katzenstein. They do a tremendous, tremendous job. Follow Herbie on Twitter at Herbie Teope, Teope. Hey, Herbs, appreciate the time, my friend.
Hey, can I just say one more thing?
You can say as much as you want, Herbie. It's your time.
I got to give Josh some major, major props. I consider myself a grinder. Josh is a friggin' grinder. He's just impressive as heck to watch.
On the dance floor, grinding, or working the Saints beat?
I'm talking about the beat, man.
Herbie's the dancer of the duo.
Probably some new addition.
No, look, I think we can safely say, and Herbie, I hope you're still on the line, that between Herbie and Josh, we've got two grinders that kick butt. And, I mean, we are fortunate here. Saints fans are fortunate to have two guys like that on the beat, and it's never been in better hands.
I agree. Totally agree. There you go. All right, Herbs. Appreciate it, my friend.
All right, bye, guys.
All right.
Later.
Yep, that's Herbie Teope. Both have done a tremendous job and will continue doing tremendous jobs. And, oh, by the way, Herbie's going to have a mock draft at some point, either later this week or next week. I don't remember the schedule.
Yeah, the more y'all spread that out, the better, so I'm not having to do one every single day. So please, spread them out as much as possible.
People want to see it.
I know.
Give the people what they want.
I'm eager to talk Larry Holder mock draft because I liked his mock draft today.
Give the people what they want, which includes...
Play the hits.
What?
Play the hits.
Well, which includes the greatest news of your life.
Oh, yes.
But likely not.
Maybe the greatest news of the last 30 seconds of the show.
That's probably true.
We'll do that. We'll talk my mock draft coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Older. We're wobbling today.
Playing some hits today, bro. Playing some hits today.
Yeah, you right, New Orleans.
I did get a call last night and one this morning
Let's
about
head to Metairie, a.k.a. New Orleans West, home of traffic. Lots and lots of traffic. Let's go back to the phone lines. A cellular device caller. We're heading to New Orleans East, home of not one good restaurant.
Sports 1280.
New Orleans. This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Zoo for just $38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Walk, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to Fox Sports, AM1280.com. Keyword deals.
This Sunday, our iHeartRadio Music Awards are here for the love of music. See can't miss live performances by Ed Sheeran, Cardi B, Bon Jovi, Maroon 5, Camila Cabello, Charlie Puth, and surprises you'll have to see to believe. Sunday night at 7 on TBS, TNT, and True TV.
Brought to you by Taco Bell. Introducing Taco Bell's $1 nacho fries, covered in bold Mexican spices and dipped in warm nacho cheese sauce. Now serving at a Taco Bell near you.
It's being reported Cynthia Nixon of Sex and the City fame is assembling a staff to run for governor of New York. Should she enter the race, she would be poised to challenge Governor Cuomo in this September's Democratic primary. Nixon played the role of Miranda on the long-running HBO series. She was born in New York City, later graduating from Hunter College High School in Manhattan and then Columbia University. Jennifer Garner is embracing a viral meme of herself. The actress posted a few voiceovers of the meme on Instagram, mocking herself on what she may have been thinking at the time.
Congrats to Shape of Water. Maybe I should date a fish. Hey, Jimmy Kimmel, what's in your wallet?
All right, 1 minute.
Clip is from Sunday's Academy Awards, which shows Garner applauding in the audience and then stopping suddenly with a confused look on her face. Childish Gambino is embarking on a U.S. tour later this year. The singer, whose real name is Donald Glover, announced a 13-show trek that will take place in September in support of his 2016 album, Awaken My Love. It will reportedly be Glover's last tour before he retires his Childish Gambino alter ego.
I said, hey man, I'm a poet. Look at that.
A number of unpublished Lou Reed poems will be published later this year.
What?
Lisa G, NBC News Radio.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting agent.
Butt up, Chuck. He's here all week. Try the veal. Tip your waitress.
And get your retirement plan on track. Retirement.org can help. Brought to you by
On Time Clyde.
But what about all the great food at Katie's?
This is Duncan Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
In residential neighborhoods and nightclubs. Grab your shorty and break it.
Good insight from Herbie Teope, and of course from Will Guillory in hour number 1. If you missed any of the show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube page, and of course Clyde's excellent recaps. Usually 2 posts a day, depending on the topic. I'm just wondering if that last segment's going to deserve a topic.
It kind of depends on how the rest of the show goes. I mean, we're obviously going to do something on the Pelicans. So obviously Will brought really great stuff on the Pelicans. I will very likely pull Herbie's as well, but it kind of depends on, where the rest of it goes. Because I feel like, we've talked a lot about the Combine, but like now, especially with your mock draft being out, with Jeff's being out, some of the other ones, and all this Lamar Jackson talk. I don't know, man.
I'm willing to bet that someone in this newsroom does a post on what we're going to report later on in the show. I'm willing to bet it. Jeff is willing to bet it as well. I like just that we're keeping Clyde in the dark. He doesn't know where this is going to go.
Pun intended. Dark.
You've got the light on you.
I know, but I actually need to turn on one of these other lights because it's looking pretty bleak in here.
Oh,
so
we didn't put on this other light.
Yeah, put on the other
there.
light. So I'm gonna go put that on while we're talking.
There you
go.
But
yeah, allegedly, whatever this is, which again, if this is not, and I'm not pulling this, you're going to be in trouble. Okay?
I'm not in trouble. I'll do what I want.
Someone's gonna be in trouble. All right?
I'll do what I want.
Trouble, Sir Lawrence.
I'll do what I want. How you like that? Do what I want. Like,
you should sound like Cartman over here.
Exactly. I sound like Jeff Duncan. Mock draft time. Jeff, who did you take again with your first pick?
The great Leighton Vander Esch.
The great Leighton Vander Esch.
Who belongs to the country club down the street.
He's like Wayne Gretzky, the great one.
Please put it on the Leighton Vander Esch tab.
There you go. All right. So my first pick I debated on who I was going to pick. Obviously, you're going to be doing that for weeks and, heck, months at this rate because you're at the mercy of the draft at 27. So I went with Sam Hubbard, defensive end from a familiar school, one Ohio State. And the more I researched it, and I could change my mind next week. Look, I think this is going to be as tricky of a pick as you can have. It's not going to be a consensus like 2 years ago when they drafted Sheldon Rankins. We all knew it. It was right for the taking. They took him the end. We knew that was going to be the pick. This one is going to be anywhere off the chart because I was honestly considering even putting Arden Key at that spot, a guy I really respect, draft guru from Bleacher Report, Matt Miller. He put out a mock draft and actually put Arden Key to the Saints at 27. And this is post-Combine when there were things up in the air with Arden Key. But I just went and did the research on Sam Hubbard, and his draft profile read very similar to when Cam Jordan came out. Cam Jordan's profile said, this is via NFL.com, it says, not a big-time pass rushing talent by any means, but still has some good power. Probably will never be an impact pass rusher. Hasn't put up big sack totals, but still works hard in that area. Obviously, he's one of the best in the business, so not all those draft profiles are correct. But here's what Hubbard is saying right now. This via NFL.com. More worker bee than twitchy athlete. His tape is solid, but nothing jumps out off the screen. Teams looking for a big-time edge rusher won't get too excited by him, but he will appeal to defensive coordinators looking for guys with size and motor to plug into a blitz-heavy, twist-happy defense. So he sounds like a guy who busts his tail and can play on 3 downs, but may not have elite pass rushing skills. So that's why, first one, I'm feeling this is a safe pick. And I don't know if it's a stretch because I've also considered Harold Landry, who I think could have elite pass rush skills, but I don't know if he's an every down guy.
I think he sounds a lot like Paul Kruger, a guy that can get some sacks, but has a low, what do they call it, floor. Or he's
maybe a low ceiling.
Low ceiling, but also a high floor. That's right.
Yes.
Let me get my scouting terms correct. He's not going to – I don't think he's going to be a bust, and that doesn't excite people, and fans don't want to hear that. They want to be excited. But it's in this instance right now, I think those kind of picks at 27 are wise. I really do. And I think that's the direction the Saints are going to go in this draft. I think they're going to take a guy like that they know they can plug in the lineup, and at worst – I think Sheldon Rankins has kind of fallen into that category. He's not a bust, but he's not a home run. He's just a solid player who produces, and you've got a high floor for him, but I don't know if he's ever going to develop into Aaron Donald. He's not going to be that. So Hubbard falls into that category for me. I like the pick.
Well, I'm not giving away my whole mock draft. You can go check it out at NOLA.com.
All right, but let me ask you this real quick.
Okay.
You had to consider at that point Arden Key, right?
Absolutely.
So
I was very close.
What was the thought process there?
That you could take. I mean, it's okay to take a safe pick, but at number 27, I feel like you could be a little more risky than you would at 11 or 10. Just like at 31 or 32 last year, the Saints were willing to put the red flags aside and draft Reuben Foster.
So why didn't you go with Key?
I just don't know. I think he's honestly, his weight fluctuates from 280 to 238. I think that's an issue, and I think he's got bust written on him. I just do. I haven't said that probably the whole time we've been on the radio. I think he's got bust written on him, and I'd rather play it safe there.
Or at least you're worried enough that you don't want to risk it on him.
Right.
Well, I mean,
here we go.
I'm not going to talk about Arden because obviously I've already stated.
Arden.
Yeah,
yes. I'm about to say I've already stated. For me, I think that a lot of the stuff that is either being played up in circles or whatever. I think the weight fluctuation thing is serious because he did deal with injury last year towards the end of the year, and then this past year, which obviously can't hurt because if it's shoulder, anything arm related, there's only so much you can do. But really, honestly, again, not giving away your draft, but the one player that I was two players I would say.
Well, there are 8 picks, so we can give away
2.
half of them.
Yeah,
we can give away half of them.
Were
okay.
Shaquem Griffin and Perry Nickerson. I thought those are 2 very very interesting picks by you specifically. I know we talked about Griffin a lot after the Combine. I know we've talked a lot about Nickerson on the show, but those 2, for me, when I saw it, I was like, that's actually actually some, really interesting picks by you.
Yeah, I'm curious to see because there's a lot of hype, and I had him in the 4th round. Could he jump? Yes, but I think you're hearing a lot of hype on Griffin right now because of his great story. I'm not trying to be a jerk. The fact that he does not have a hand is going to hurt his draft stock. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he could have a great story, and he could lift 20 reps of 225, but that will hinder you in the NFL. I mean, you can't grab a guy. Like, it hurts your draft stock. So people think, he's good because he ran fast, he did that, he's going to be a 2nd round pick. 4th round, I still think would be fair. And at the 4th round, if you're going to go get a guy like that, I would. And then I've been talking about Perry Nickerson on the show as soon as he got announced that he was going to the Combine. I think he's going to be a very good player. I have him at the 6th round right now, and he may jump because he ran well. People are going to see some more workouts, some more tape. I think he may jump, and I wouldn't feel bad picking him like in the 5th, or it just depends. I'm curious to see what some of the draft gurus say because they are more in it than, say, you and me, Jeff.
Well, I think Perry Nickerson makes a lot of sense for the Saints. He plays a lot of man coverage. They know him. They certainly know him. I mean, he was recruited to Tulane by Curtis Johnson, and they need help. They need depth at cornerback. I don't think he's a guy that's going to come in and start. He's going to come in and fill a role and compete maybe for a nickel job or something like that, but it makes perfect sense. I love that pick, and at that point in the draft, too, I think – why not take a guy? That's the kind of guy you want to take, and he could develop into a starter, certainly. I felt that way a few years ago. What was the kid that came out of Tulane that ended up in Denver, the corner? I'm trying to think of his name.
I need to look it up. Yeah, they had, is it Lorenzo Doss?
That sounds right.
I think that's who it is. Yeah, he was a very good player.
Very similar type of player,
yes.
I think. But I think Nickerson even has better ball skills than Doss, and a guy that maybe has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, he had 16 career interceptions at Tulane, 31 pass breakups, and in some of the, I think he was 2nd team All-American in a couple of publications. So he's legitimate, and he went up against legitimate competition in the American. They had some very good teams, and I have Griffin there. I mean, look, UCF went undefeated. They played Memphis is good. They played some good teams, and he was consistent throughout his Tulane career, consistently good. I just feel good.
Michael Larry.
Yeah, I just feel good about it. And so when you have that consistency, I think at that point in the draft, why not? Why not?
Lorenzo Doss is right. He was drafted by the Broncos. And then 2, I know we talked about Shaquem Griffin in his hand, but didn't they say the same thing about Jason Pierre-Paul after he blew off most of his fingers on on one of his tackling hands? I know it said the same thing, but obviously there were a lot of questions about him and how he'd be able to continue to be able to play with, after blowing off most of his hands.
I will also say, though, as far as Jason Pierre-Paul, he plays at the edge spot, and that is something that when you have – and he's proven that. Mm-hmm. So I think the fact that he's a proven pass rusher, he can get in there, I think you look at him a little different than Griffin, who's trying to play linebacker, and he's light, 227. I mean, that's not heavy for a linebacker. He runs well, but – look,
could you maybe see him playing it kind of like that hybrid role, maybe
possibly
off the edge kind of thing, maybe adding,
No, he's not big enough.
Well, I don't think, but he has a lot of
people
size.
Run right at him.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Because I mean, obviously, if you're using him to blitz, I mean, you could probably
227. No, could get run over the NFL level. I think. I mean, I'd be shocked. I do think you make a good point though about Jason Pierre-Paul, because Sean Payton even mentioned that the other day. Players play in the league all the time with these big kind of clubs on their hand. They lose the ability. Didn't the Saints have somebody recently? Was it Zach Streif or somebody in the last few years play with basically this big wrap on his wrist?
Someone played with that this year.
It was an offensive lineman, I thought.
So I remember when Fred Thomas played with the club on his hand way back when.
It looks like a big Q-tip or something on your hand. So, I don't have any problem with Griffin drafting him, putting him on the team. I just think he's going to end up being a special teams player more than likely, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. And in the 4th round, hey, if that's the way it works, that's the way it works. But I'm curious to see where they go. So, all right, let's take a break right here on the show. If you want to get involved, 504-260-1280. If you think my mock draft stinks, feel free to give me a call. If you think I should become the next GM of the New Orleans Saints, feel free to give me a call as well, and I'll use you as a reference. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Like she a groupie and I ain't even no tour. Maybe cause she heard that I rhyme hardcore. Or maybe cause she heard that I buy out the store.
That's some good stuff,
Monday night in the city, got the score.
Yeah, you would like
that. Gotta move on to the next floor. Here comes the 3.
Your forecast on Sports 1280.
Everybody in the club getting tipsy.
Is brought to you by Unbound.
What's the song? Is that song called Low? What's that song?
Well
Get
done.
Get low,
Yeah.
get low.
Yeah,
With the girl to the wall.
Yeah.
It's a good girl.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
Cooler mid to upper 40 south. Thursday, another beautiful day. Tomorrow's high of 64 with sun.
Let's all play
Overnight
hooky
lows
tomorrow.
back to
Sounds
the
like it's gonna
30s
be
north
nice.
and 40
Yeah.
south.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Sunshine.
Book
I
it
suddenly
now.
feel a cold coming on.
Yeah. Going to buy you beer.
Oh, yeah.
Can we get the remote broadcast set up on the top of the Troubadour Hotel outside tomorrow? Can we do that turnaround?
Yeah, it's just that we're just going to test the equipment. That's it.
Yeah.
Just a dry
I'm
run.
gonna be watching. By the way, there won't be anything on though. Well, it's not a broadcast of our show,
Just
right?
gonna be there.
It's gonna be there.
Bring a brighter
Yeah, I just wanted
No,
to.
what'll happen is we'll have to record some stuff. We can do some of it live, or we can just pre-record it and put it in the log during Corey's show.
Right.
But at 6 o'clock we go back to national stuff, so we'll have to put it in a break.
Right,
And
right.
we'll just record like a little 60-second deal, and then just send it to the station. Angie will be here in studio, so we'll just have her loaded in the log.
For $49.99.
So yeah, let's see. Hold on a second.
Available
I need to
only at
do anything since I'm not gonna be
Total
there? Should I
Wireless,
even-
total confidence. Limited.
No, but we need to start kind of like generating a tiny bit of buzz. Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I was wondering
Good
if
idea.
you wanted to start doing that.
Chris Paul with 25 points as they
I'm
tally
jealous.
Thunder
You guys
122
gonna have a good time.
But I didn't want to start talking about it on air until it was absolutely
Right.
confirmed, and because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never know, man.
Enough said.
So the ink is dry, so I'm secure in saying we can do this.
Season matched by Golden State later.
Hey
in the
Dave,
night
did
with
you
the
hear me
Dubs top
talking?
the
Was I
Nets
talking
114,
yesterday? I
101.
don't think I talked to you about this, but Beth was out at Zurich. And
Yeah. Because I just wanted to. She wanted me to come out there, but I mean, I'm chained to the board all the time, dude. I mean, I really, it's hard for me to kind of get out from out here, and we don't really have anybody else, besides me and Angie who know how to run the boards.
But what I was going to say is, we talked to Tom Long, and during tournament week, we will have hard wires out there, so we can. It won't be the problem.
Awesome.
So he suggested maybe getting Doug to come out, or Luke, or somebody the week before, and we could do a walkthrough and kind of look at the setup. That way we're all on the same page.
Welcome back to the show. Saints made a move earlier today, or maybe it happened yesterday, but they are retaining potentially, now no longer potentially, defensive end, free agent defensive end George Johnson. He came in toward the end of the season and actually made a surprising impact. Saw plenty of snaps at defensive end, got a few sacks, and someone who makes total sense. They bring him back on a one-year deal, see if he can kind of recapture some of that. But look, these are some of the things, these signings, they're not going to be these high-profile signings, but you're going to see them throughout. They're not going to break the bank. And some of these, say Raphael Bush, maybe they re-sign him to a one-year deal. You're going to see some of these things as we get closer to free agency and even into free agency. You could get past the first wave, second wave. You could retain some of your guys. Say, Chase Daniel. If you want to re-sign him, I don't think you've got to sprint to go re-sign Chase Daniel or some of these other reserve players that are on the free agent list for the Saints.
I thought it was interesting. Herbie indicated something a little differently than what our colleague Josh Katzenstein indicated on the role of Kurt Coleman. Herbie seemed to think he's going to be the veteran third guy, kind of the Raphael Bush role. Josh seemed to think that he's being brought in to start along with Marcus Williams. I don't know which way I'm leaning on that.
I need to see them basically compete. That's what I need to do because we've seen a couple of years of Von Bell, and he's done some pretty good things last year, but he's susceptible. We've talked about it. He's susceptible in pass coverage, I think. And how well is Kurt Coleman in that at this stage of his career? I'm not sure. etched in our memory bank is Ted Ginn beating him for 80 yards, but that didn't happen all the time. But his interception numbers have dipped the last few years. So there's a reason why Carolina got rid of him. You got to remember that, too. It's not like he was becoming a free agent. They just released him.
No, I know. I agree. And that's a red flag for me. People keep saying, well, he was injured last year. He'll get back to that. Well, how do we know? I mean, they would know better than anybody because they had him in their locker room and in their building all that time. And one of the things I wanted to say, I wanted to get your all's thoughts on this because I do think it's funny, and this is not the first time this has happened, but it is funny now that Kenny Vaccaro is basically the Saints are saying we're going to divorce, right? We're moving on.
Well, Kenny's even saying that too.
Right. But I think you all would agree with me on this. It's amazing to me. Maybe I'm just getting crusty in my old age. I'm sure y'all would agree with that. But, like, when a player is on the team, everybody loves him. He could do very, very little wrong. You're always going to defend him. And then as soon as it looks like he's moving on, everybody starts pointing out all the negatives about Kenny Vaccaro. But no one pointed out those things very rarely when he played.
I don't know if no one pointed them out.
We did, but most fans would love Kenny Vaccaro. Now it's like negativo.
Let's not talk about the vocal, I'm going to say minority. Let's not talk about that because I do think that people have seen Kenny Vaccaro and his flaws. I think people have seen that, and we're mentioning that before. Like I know we have, and that we are in a different boat than other spots. So much so where Kenny felt like we hurt his feelings. Remember one game when you and me he felt like we were too hard on him on Twitter, and we hurt his feelings.
Yeah, I do remember that. But Kenny was like that. He was, for better or worse. For better or worse, he was definitely media friendly, media savvy, and involved. And I like that about him.
No, there's no doubt about that. And I'm certainly going to appreciate him. And, hey, let's be real honest. He lasted longer than 2014 first-round pick Brandon Cooks. He lasted longer than 2015 first-round pick Stephon Anthony. He at least played out his contract, his rookie contract.
All right, so y'all don't agree with me on my theory.
No. But, I mean, I don't think
Not totally.
I also don't think that we have enough time to really kind of delve into the psychology of fandom and how it varies from fan to fan and across the fan base as a whole, because I think that, and we've talked about how he has had maybe a little bit more of a love-hate relationship, and hate's the strong word, but he's had a very dichotomous career here in New Orleans. Like
big word.
I mean, he's had fantastic games and has made great plays, but then we've also talked about he was suspended for a short time. He's been injured. It's just one of those things where I think for Kenny specifically, he's had a little bit of a different career here in the 4 or 5 years he's been here than, say, other players. And, I mean, it's unfortunate that it gets to the point where we talk about the business side of it and we realize that, like, now it's almost like a post-mortem. Now we're doing a complete gloss over and looking at everything that we can talk about of his career, and then specifically last season. So I just think it's just it's one of those kind of byproducts of the whole free agent, off-season, 24-hour, 365 NFL news cycle that now is just – it's content. Let's talk about how he's done. Let's talk about, let's talk about where he's drafted, who he's, been who at least he stayed longer than, and then now.
But I'm referring to fan tribalism, basically.
Oh, yeah, but it's heavy.
When he's part of your family, he's ours. And then as soon as they're gone, I mean, we see it with Brandon Cooks. We've seen it with Jimmy Graham. We've seen it with Akeem Hicks, Malcolm Jenkins. Any player that leaves, immediately everybody starts shooting arrows. But that's not the case.
Until they do well with the other team, then they think the Saints are idiots because they let him go.
Yeah.
They need to do well later for them to get back on board. Like, people were saying, can we get Akeem Hicks back? Can we get Malcolm Jenkins back? Now, people, can we get Jimmy Graham back? I think it goes in waves, honestly. Darren Sproles, remember he went nuts? I don't think – and remember when Darren Sproles got traded – I don't think that was the case then. I think people were wondering what the hell are they doing getting rid of Darren Sproles.
Well, he was maybe one of the exceptions for the most part. But, I mean, people still to this day, I get into engagements on social media with people over Malcolm Jenkins. I think it was a mistake they let him go, and I think it's been bared out pretty clearly. The guy's an all-pro safety and a Pro Bowl safety. And because he didn't play maybe his last year that well in New Orleans, isn't his fault. They just didn't know how to use him. They didn't use him properly.
And when that happened, I remember talking to Malcolm as soon as he signed with the Eagles. Like that day, I talked with him. And he said the Saints didn't even extend an offer. They were just done. And they were going all in on Jarris Byrd, who had some red flags, and yet they got enamored. They thought he was the end-all, be-all. And obviously, hindsight's 20/20, all the cliches you want. That move was a terrible move.
Oh, disastrous, because you had a guy in the building that was better, and you let him go. And then you brought in a problem, not that Jarris Byrd was a bad guy, but he was injury-prone and was injury-prone throughout his tenure. But the good thing I would say, and one of the things I like best about Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis is they will admit when they make a mistake. A lot of people in this league don't, and they do. They've admitted they screwed up letting Malcolm Jenkins go. They've admitted it.
Well, they've admitted that. They've admitted that they totally screwed up on Rob Ninkovich. They admitted that I'm blanking on another one I don't know where I'm going, but they have admitted these things. Oh, they obviously admitted that they screwed up with Junior Gillette because they ate it.
Yes.
They cut him and ate the money. That is the biggest one where, boy, they just totally screwed up and had to just admit it.
Now that confidence comes with security, and they know that they're secure here. So there's something to be said about that. They know Tom Benson has their back, and they can admit that. But it's refreshing to hear. Even Sean Payton, I remember him relaying the conversation he had with Kai Forbath when he cut him to bring in Will Lutz, and he said, look, this might blow up in my face, but I'm going by what I see, and I'm going to bring him in, and we're going with this young kid. He admitted it could blow up on him, and that's one of the things I like about Payton, and I think it's one of the reasons why fans like him so much, because he's willing to go for it sometimes, and if he's going to mess up every once in a while, but it's better than being conservative.
The meek don't win football games and win championships.
Correct.
They don't. You got to take risks, a la Sean Payton and the onside kick. That takes guts of steel, and it worked, and they won the Super Bowl. And sometimes you miss, sometimes you hit a home run. If you don't swing, you don't get anywhere. I love all my cliches anyway.
Fortune favors the bold.
That too. Or what is it? See the trap, avoid the trap, or don't jump in the trap. What is that saying, Jeff?
That's not even close.
Bear traps, woods, animals.
Mouse trap.
Don't jump in the trap. See the trap, identify the trap, use the trap to your advantage.
I always just fall into the trap.
We're never going to remember that.
I'm going to fall into the trap.
No matter how many times he says that, we don't remember it.
Absolutely.
I'm getting excited.
We butchered it just now.
Are we going to get this big news coming up soon?
No, I'm going to try to make so much shenanigans in the next segment. I can't wait.
No.
By the way, I didn't bring up that yesterday was National Oreo Day, so now everybody on YouTube, you're welcome. I got it in there. Thank you.
National Oreo Day.
And it was my mother's birthday yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday to Clyde's mom. And my mom, speaking of, let's go take a break right here. She's wondering what the news is, and I'm coming with the final segment. She says it better be big.
You've built it up so
good job.
It's going to be disappointing.
It's going to be such a letdown.
It's going to be so awesome. You're not even going to know what hit you. You're not even going to know what hit you, Clyde Verdun. No chance.
We'll see.
All right, biggest news of your life coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Penny Hardaway? They might hire Penny Hardaway in Memphis.
Oh yeah, I saw that story yesterday. Because he's a high school and AAU coach. It's like, really? Because that works.
They're going with that.
Yeah, like that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna get rid of Tubby, and then it's like, oh hey, let's bring in Penny.
Did you see the rant Tubby went on? It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, it was.
Legend.
Well,
because Tubby's not out yet.
No.
No.
Yeah, I mean they're talking about. The rumor came out while he's still coaching.
Yeah.
New Orleans. What is big?
As long as they bring Little Penny
from the perimeter and
Little Penny.
Unfortunately,
about Little Penny.
What stinks though is that it's unfortunate because I guess I would imagine that Nike still holds the rights to Little Penny. But if he went to a bigger school that had the resources, like the video resources and production resources,
well, who's Memphis's basketball? What are their gear? What kind of gear do they wear?
I'm pretty sure they wear Nike.
Well, when Calipari was there, they definitely wore Nike because World Wide West was on the bench.
World Wide West.
The runner. Y'all saw the story about Bam Adebayo having met with an agent when he was a junior in high school. Shocking.
I missed that.
Former Kentucky player. Shocking.
Gates open at 6.
Shocking.
Concerts start at 6:30. Food and beverage.
Wow.
Dave, you're going to be mystified by this news. Just tell
Am I?
Yeah.
Mystified.
You and
Am I going to be
Clyde.
floored?
It's gonna be like the
It's
snake
going to knock
flute.
my socks off?
It's gonna be like when you're hearing the snake flute in the Mandinas commercial. You're gonna be mystified.
Mandinas.
I'm pretty hungry.
Commitment we've made.
I'm pretty hungry.
Our NATE certified technicians provide emergency service for
We're idiots.
and any
Yeah,
brand.
clearly.
Surprised nobody's made the commercial. You're getting hungry. Very hungry. Mandina.
Mandina.
And if you're thinking about an upgrade right now,
Yummy, yummy, Treyen.
these systems come with
Oh my God!
What is going on?
Okay. Stop.
Yeah.
systems are highly efficient.
You're welcome, YouTube.
You'll continue saving on utility bills for years to come. Whether it's an emergency repair or a brand new cooling system, we're here to help when you need us. Trust Burkhardt Air Conditioning and Heating. Visit acpromise.com.
I have 15 seconds.
Keep us back at Boomtown Casino and Hotel. The all-you-can-eat seafood celebration featuring snow crab legs, stuffed crab shells, and so much more. Visit BoomtownNewOrleans.com for info.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
One more segment here on the show. I've been waiting all day for this. I know you have too. All of you, including Clyde and Dave.
Not really.
Mystifying news coming out of the sports/entertainment world. Clyde, are you ready? Jeff, are you ready?
I'm definitely ready.
Okay.
Past ready.
Okay. So, Bachelorette. You heard of that show, Clyde? Have you heard of that show, Clyde? Clyde's already leaning back in his seat, already lamenting.
Someone loaded up and just come and find me in the building. Yeah, I know the show.
Okay. So you know how Aaron Rodgers' brother, Jordan Rodgers, was on the show once, right?
Yes, current SEC Network football color analyst and television personality.
Wasn't Aaron Murray's brother on that show too?
Yes, he was also on the show as well.
Guess there's another person I remember that's familiar with Saints land. He was a former Saints punter. Glenn Pakulak, Jeff's good friend.
Yes, Glenn Pakulak, former Saints punter for
about 20 minutes, right? For about 20 minutes, because I think Morstead may have gotten hurt or something.
Yes.
Or Weatherford, I forget when he was with the Saints. He was forgettable.
Actually, I like this segment.
He was forgettable. He was on Bravo's show Most Eligible in Dallas, okay?
Oh.
Just so you see where I'm going with this. There will be a Saints connection in the newest series of The Bachelorette. At least that's what's being rumored out in the Twitter sphere and in the internet. See, now I've got your attention. Look at Clyde's. Look at him. He's giving me this gaze that he can't wait to hear who it's going to be. 3 guesses. Who do you think it is? Go, Clyde.
And I really want to accentuate this. I don't care.
Well, that's not a guess. 3 guesses of who this could be. Actual guesses.
Of like what, people? Women? Men?
Saints connection, The Bachelorette.
Okay.
You know, gentlemen go and try to win the hand of some jilted woman who lost out on this Ari character in this latest Bachelor.
Speaking of, there's a current book that's about to come out. There's a book about to come out about the inner workings of the Bachelor and Bachelorette fame, specifically on how secretive they are about the Bachelor and Bachelorette.
We're losing listeners.
And I know, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Well, can't wait. I don't care. Play the music. Play the crickets.
Dave.
Play the crickets. I don't care. And apparently the show also, one of the excerpts from the show talks about how they track women's menstrual cycles to like really play up the emotional moments of the show. Yeah, that's the show you're talking about. Can't believe the show's still on the air. And then the dude who hosts the show, what's his name? What's the guy who hosts the show? Whatever he is, his name is Satan, because he clearly is the worst person in the world.
Okay, are you ready?
I've checked out.
No, you haven't. Yeah! Check back in.
What?
Check back in. Because, you still have not... It's not Jeremy Shockey or Jimmy Graham or Lance Moore. Sorry, ladies.
Joe Horn?
No.
Joe Horn.
You will never guess it, but it's the most glorious thing because it's totally connected to this show, Clyde. Totally connected to this show.
How is it connected
That's another
to this
hint.
show? Have we had this person on the show?
No. He's been mentioned several times, though, but mostly in jest.
Junior Gillette.
No, that is just in pure venom from me. Okay. Rumored on the internet, according to his own Twitter account and his own Instagram account, the one and only Gretna Subdivision Clay Harbor. Look at Clyde's face.
Clay Harbor is going to be on The Bachelorette.
He's going to be on The Bachelorette, supposedly.
I can't handle it.
Clay Harbor, the Gretna Subdivision. Jeff has made him more famous than he's ever been, and now he's gone Hollywood because of Jeff.
Good job, Jeff.
Clay Harbor, is there any doubt that he's going to win the hand of this lovely
Becca.
lass?
Her name is Becca.
Becca?
Yes.
Becca's not going to be able to resist. Just the name alone. Clay Harbor.
I really hope for his sake that he's one of the first ones cut in the first episode.
The guy's an NFL player.
He's going to come up on a he's going to come up on a horse.
Put him on the street. Put him on the street. Say, hey, do you know who this player is?
These other jabronis have no shot.
Whoa.
Clay Harbor's going to walk out there.
There's only one jabroni. There's only one jabroni. We're talking about him right now on that show.
Clay Harbor?
Clay Harbor.
What you got against Clay Harbor?
All right, so let's time it out now.
Hang on, let me just
March
7th. Wait, Claude. Let me just relay who Clay Harbor, who the hell he even is, because Saints fans probably don't remember
Zip
him.
it, Dave.
He's on IR the whole year. I think he was on IR the whole year. I don't know. He didn't make it out of training camp. He was getting some first-team reps when Kobe Fleener was banged up and some guys, and so he caught a few passes, dropped a few, and was never going to make the team. Veteran tight end, though. He played for the Eagles, Jacksonville, Patriots, and Lions, so he's been around the block. So maybe he's got some money.
2 minutes.
But on his Twitter feed, he has taken 2 pictures of his new crush, Becca, and put hearts around them, drew hearts, so he did that. Also, on his Instagram story, he took a shot from his couch of a big screen of Becca, I guess, announcing that she's going to be the Bachelorette, and has an emoji of a smile with the hearts in his eyes and a rose.
How do we know he's not just a fan?
He's already begging for a rose.
How do we know he's not just a fan?
Because I'm looking it up on Batchettesfans.net at message board. It's totally true. It's a spoiler alert.
I can't believe that just happened.
My wife told me this, and so if she's telling me this, it's got to be true.
Batchett.net. What is this website you've trolled into? What is going on? What's happening to my co-host?
He's already begging for a rose. He put it in his Instagram story. He puts a rose. He's already begging for one.
So we're not putting out false information. He's going to be on, or we're speculating.
We're wide speculations. The point of the spread, the message is Bachelorette 14, potential contestants, discussion, sleuthing spoilers. So they think he's one of the next ones.
If Clay Harbor is on, I'm watching. This would be my first episode ever of The Bachelorette. I will watch it.
And you wouldn't let me talk about that show yesterday?
Seconds.
No.
You wouldn't let me talk about this
on a high note.
Southern Charm show with like Tamika Lee and all the rest of these and Jeff Charleston?
Oh, we got to talk about that tomorrow.
We will talk about Jeff Charleston tomorrow.
20 seconds.
Sorry, Clyde. Want to thank Herbie Tiopi. Want to thank Will Guillory. Clyde's lost his mind. Biggest news of your life. Clay Harbor, Bachelorette. Get ready. We'll be back tomorrow with maybe something worth a damn.
Twitter poll.
Probably not.
Twitter poll to
Eric
come.
Asher will bring more substance on his show, so listen there. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder!
People who name their savings accounts save
Right under the wire. There you go.
federal credit.
Yeah, we're doing a whole show. We're doing a week of shows. We're getting Clay Harbor on. There's no doubt we're getting Clay Harbor on.
My old bass player just texted me. He's like, Holder is disturbing today. People call me, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? I love my job.
Exactly.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
See you tomorrow.